We are in Shoftim, and chapter 5 was going to start at 15. We may have started already, but we'll do it again. V'sarai b'Yisachar im Devorah. So it says the princes of Yisachar were with Devorah. V'Yisachar came Barak, and also the Yisachar was also with Barak. Cain Barak. I mean, I'm using also, but it's not really also. Thus with Barak. Be'emek in the valley Shulach. Excuse me. Is it Shulach? Yeah, Shulach. Okay, it's a misprint here. Shulach Baraglav. They rushed forth with their feet. Beflagot Reuven. But amongst the divisions of Reuven, so there was great resolves of heart, he says. Okay. Rashi says, Sarim should be Yisachar Hem Sanhedriot, that the officers in Sanhedrin of Yisachar were the Sanhedrin. And what were they doing? They were Oskim Torah, they were delving into Torah. Yodea, Bina, De'itim, Him Tamid, Im Devorah, so they knew they knew how to distinguish the times, as it were, understand the times, and they were always with Devorah to teach in Israel the Chok Mishpat, to teach the statutes and the law. Sarah Yisachar, Yud Zu Tefela, so the Yud is extra. Ve'ena Mishamesh Klum, fine, okay, so Yisachar came Barak, Yisachar was all, thus with Barak. Sha'ar Ha'am Shal Yisachar, so the rest of the nation of Yisachar, not exclusive of the Sanhedrin. They were also with Barak in everything that he commanded. And it says that in the valley their feet rushed the fourth, Shilcham V'chol Shlichuto. So they sent with all the messengers, the Sofet Ha'am, to gather the nation, for all the needs of the war. And then it says, Beflagot Reuven, about Chaluke Libo Shal Reuven, but there was a dispute, if you will, in the heart of Reuven. Rabu Chake Lev Nichle Lavol Arimumot. They were really afraid to come. So what was their Arimut is mischievousness or something. Yashav lo beimish They want to know who was going to win, and that's when they would go onto the side. That's how it's understood here. Shrewdness, he says, is shrewdness. Okay. He dwelt by the edges of the battle to hear who would win, so that he would join with them. Okay. And Mrs. Dababol explains that the fact that Reuven divided and separated himself from the other tribes when he was who were engaged in the battle spurs much speculation and thought. Okay. So that's how most people are getting it. The Malbim, see what the Malbim does with this. The Malbim says, V'chein, Yisachar, and also the officers of Yisachar that went with Devorah, they were only, Hayurak Chachamim Torah, they were only wise in Torah. V'chein Yisachar, and also Yisachar that went with Barak into the valley, their feet were sent forth. Ki lo hayu lo recha v'sus, because they didn't have horses and chariots. Lo anshei chayla milchama, and they weren't men of war. B'flagot, and that's again this is the Chaluke Reuven, the divisions of Reuven. Hameshora yasim libo v'rabe enav al shnei shvatim. It was it was bad in his eyes of these two tribes. The Meshora is the one who's composing the song. So he put into his heart, and it was bad in his eyes. It was a negative thing on the two tribes, namely Reuven and Dan. Why? Shelo ba'u l'milchama, because they did not come to the war. Ki b'yemei Yoshua, in the days of Joshua, hayu Reuven holech barosh hamachanot. So Reuven went at the head of the camp. Dan ma'asef l'chol hamachanot, and Dan would gather. He would go behind all the camps, and so that he would gather everything that came. So you understand the two things? Reuven would lead off the campaign, and Dan would be the cleanup guy. Their tribe would be in the back, and they that way, if anything was lost, we bring them back. But basically, they were the rear guard. Viatalo and now they didn't come. And when you look at the borders of the land, you'll find that all of the tribes that were close to the field of engagement. Because the Mount Tabor was at the border of Yisachar, and to the south, and from the south there was a portion of Yehuda, Shimon, Bnei Yosef, Binyamin, V'yacha Cisera hit Pashet al Bnei Yisachar, Zvulun Talish Imam Nilcham, and after Cisera had spread out over the people of the children of Yisachar, Zvulun, Naphtali, She'imam Nilcham, because he was fighting with them. Hayat Yachol Lipol Al Kol Shiftei Mibli Emsei, so they could have fallen, or they could have engaged with all the tribes without anybody in the middle. Ki Chela Gad V'Chatzi Menashe Hayat Magbil Be'ever Yordan Neged Yisachar, because Gad and half tribe Menashe were bordering in the on the other side, opposite Yisachar, V'Sadarom, and the south Hayat Magbil Im Yosef Binyamin Yehuda. So they had Yosef, Benjamin, Yehuda of Ma'aravit. From the west, from the northwest, Asher, Zavulun, Naphtali, Shachalatam, Pagu, Zebazeh. Again, their territories touched each other. Kamosha Ketub ben Achalat Asher, like it says in the inheritance of Asher, Upagab Zavulun, that it touched Zavulun's territory. Uven Achalat Naphtali, Upagab Zavulun, B'Negev, Asher, Pagab Miyam, so and then Asher touched it from the sea. Yehuda v'Yarden Mizrach Shamish, and also Yehuda was the Jordan on the east side. Rak Nakala Reuven v'Dan Hayu Nifradim. Only the inheritance of Reuven and Gad were separate. Ki im hayahaoyev rotzel lipol b'Nachala Reuven hayetzarech. So because if the enemy wanted to fall or engage in battle against the inheritance of Reuven, hayetzarech la'avor techila and the Yarden el Gilad. So they would have to go first from the Jordan to Gilad, la'avor derech Gilad, Gad v'chatzi Nasha. So they would have to pass through the Gilad, which is God and half tribe Menashe, v'chein im hayarosh the pole. So they would have, in other words, Reuven was a little bit protected. And so also if they want to engage with Dan, his inheritance was in the southwest. So the invader would have to go through Asher. Al Pizeh, because of this, she said, Plagot Reuven, because of the divisions of Reuven. Masha Niflag Reuven v'lo Baal Tzava. What was the difference? What was the division? And he didn't come to fight, to the war effort. Hagam Shaloya Yarei L'Shipol Alav Ha'oye, because it was also that he was he not also afraid that the enemy would fall upon him? So Gedolim Chakei Lev Ze Ose Chakikot Gedolot Feroshim Nora Im Belev. So this made a big Chakika is an engravement, like an impression on their hearts. Rosh Limoshe Baron Lev. Okay, so apparently everybody's agreeing that what they're doing is showing a little bit of fear. They don't want to engage in the war effort because they don't want to be attacked themselves. And even though they were once first and the other one was a cleanup crew, still the front guard and the rear guard, still they didn't want to get involved here. And Devorah is hitting them up for that. Okay, does he say anything else? No, I don't see anything from him. Fine. So now let's continue. Ted Zion. Lama yeshavta bein hamishratim. Why do you sit between the borders? Lishmoa sharikot adarim, to hear the bleatings of the flocks. Liflagot Reuven gedolim chikre lev. They are the ones they like this searchings of the heart. At the divisions of Reuven that are great searchings of the heart. And he said the Judaica press says the flocks allude to Israel, who are generally referred to as sheep. Thus, Devorah was censuring them for sitting along the borders without assisting. Devorah explains this verse as follows: if Reuven will answer in defense that they did not lend assistance out of fear, then we will ask why they chose to live in dangerous territory along the border between Israel and the Gentile nations. Did they just expect to hear the sound of their sheep? They surely realized that they would have to fight since they were located in such a dangerous position. The Me'am Lois explains that after wondering why Reuven did not assist in the battle, Devorah also asked why they chose to settle east of the Jordan. Was it indeed because they needed land for their animals, or was it merely an excuse so that they should never have to lend support? And following Meshuzah David, so it says at the division of Reuven, following Meshuzah David at the end of the previous verse, the stitch may be explained. Similarly, the Das Mikro explains that Devorah was sarcastically deriding Reuven. They were content to deeply contemplate what to do without reaching any active conclusion. Sounds like a Congress. Okay.
Yeah.
So the Malbim explains, Lama Yeshavta, why do you sit there? Hello, Ata Yoshev al Gavul Kedercha Gibor. Surely you're sitting on the border like a strong person. Shayoshev al Gavul, like the strong person who sits or who settles on the border. So Allah muta lakali regal oyev miboa arts, and it's upon you to stop the people, the enemy, from entering to land. Then I got lost. Okay. The Yom Muchan Tamid, the Yom Karav, to always be prepared on the day they approach. V'yata ki hatarv b'yom tzara, but you became weak on the day of the day of distress. Lami yeshavta be'em sh'tayim. So why are you sitting like that? There's more tzrakot adarim to hear the bleatings of your sheep. Asher savta, that you have gathered. Like it says, they had a lot of sheep for Bnei Reuven. Habav or Zeh Yeshavta. Is that why you're dwelling on the border? Ulam Tashiv Lemor. So perhaps you're going to return and say the Balgu Reuven Gedol and Chikre Lev, that the divisions of Reuven, they are great thinkers, if you will, investigators of the heart. Rad Solamar, which she wants to say, Ach the Mutar Lachkor al Zeh. Certainly is permissible to search on this matter. Why should I fear? Hello. Where is it? It stops midstream. Oh, okay. So I was going to go to the next verse.
Wait, I got a couple questions.
Yeah.
Just on
grammar.
Yeah. Shavta, how do they get? Shouldn't that be future tense?
Why?
The yud?
Why? No, because the ta at the end. Yeshav is the shoresh. Yud shin beit is the shoresh. Ta at the end. Yeshav ta. Why did you sit?
Okay.
Why did you? In other words, the real thing is, why did you? If you want to put words in here, why did you choose to settle at the borders? That's really the question. You chose. In other words, we don't have the word chose there, but really that's the question. Why did you choose?
You chose it.
Say again?
You're sitting there, so that means you.
Right. So you have to put those words in. Lama bacharta l'shav. I mean, why did you choose to sit there? Why are you sitting there? Why are you sitting there? Just to hear the bleatings of your sheep?
Yeah.
No, what are you doing?
How do they get hamish patayim? How does that translate into borders?
Is the Metzudah Sion asked you a question? The Metzudah Sion asked you a question. And he says it's coming.
Did you read it? I must have missed it if you did.
I didn't read it. It comes from. I only read it sometimes when you ask the questions. So but by the way, if you ever have a question on certainly on Tanakh, on Nach, why something is translated a specific way. The best thing to do is to go to Masudas Sion to see where they get it from. If he does, he's a dictionary. So if he doesn't explain it, then you look around. He's your first address to go to. So he says, Mishpatim is milashon safa, from the language of border. If you take away the mem, you have sin, safa, sin, pay, hey.
Yeah.
Because the taf is replaced. Remember, it's a construct, so it's going to be replaced. Okay. So then it says v'inya in gavul. It's a matter of border. So safa is border. That's what he's saying. Safa is really the shore. Okay. If I go to the seashore, I would say Safat Hayam. Safat Hayam. So it's the seashore. So the shore, the Safa, the lips are the border for the words, right? I need my lips to make words. I wouldn't have lips, I couldn't make words.
Why did you change it to a shin instead of a sin?
Because that changes. That's not a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting, because mishpat just jumps out at you.
Oh no, but mishpat would be with a tet.
Oh, okay.
Mishpat would be with a tet.
Okay.
Okay, so that's another thing.
Yeah.
So it's, but that's what. So like I said, the first thing you do when you have a question on a word, how they come to a translation, that's your first address. After that, you go to the Masudas David or Rashi. You normally don't go to Malbim for that, because they're normally going to follow those two, because they are most likely giving you Pshat. And so the Malbim will too, but he's very long-winded, so they're not going to put that in. Rashi and Masudas David are very quick with what they want to say.
Question? Did you? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's what it is. It comes from that language. So you could ask on what you could ask on there is, what are they doing with the mem?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question also. Why is it ham mishpatayim? So that let me see. Is there anybody else? Morech lev the Reddit krod nation. No, I don't see anybody else saying that, but that would be the other question. Why does it have to say it with a mem?
Oh.
I don't know.
Okay.
And let me see, what does he say? Since you got me on that one word. Lama Taftun. Mimishrat, Karava, Mitav. No. Okay, so. But the Targum goes further to say, why were you sitting close to the border? Okay. He changed the word to Tanakhumen. Period. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next page then. Gilad be'ever Yarden. So Gilad was what are we here? Yeah. So Gilad across the Jordan, and Shachain dwells. So I didn't go far enough. Okay, Gilad dwells across the Jordan. Lama Yagur Aniyot. Why do they gather? He says gather ships. And Asher Yashav Lechov Hayam, that dwelled in the seashore, by the sand of the sea. Why does he gather into the ships? So Asher dwell. Oh, I said that's bad on my part. Asher dwelt by the seashore, Avial Mifratzav Yishkon, and by the breaches he dwells. So Asher, so Rashi says Be'ever Yarden Shachain, that Gilad lives on the Ever Yarden. V'lo ba'al mechman, and he didn't come to the war. V'chein dan, and also dam hichnis mamon b'sfino, he brought his money into the ships la'amod levroach, so that he could be ready to run. And Asher is on the seashores, and he's by the breaches. He's dwelling.
By his breaches. What does that mean?
Lishmor pratz. No. Pratzot artso. The breaches in his land. To guard the breaches in his land. He's by Asher is guarding the breaches of his land. And he says, okay, to watch over the vulnerable parts of the land. Therefore, only Asher may be excused for not offering assistance, for they had to protect their exposed territory along the seashore. But everybody else, she's throwing under the proverbial bus. You didn't come, you should have come. The Metzudas David explains Gilad, when it's talking about Gilad, across the Jordan, Nechshav Shalazeh Lo Bar Reuven Melchamav. That's the reason that it's it was considered that this is why Reuven did not come to war. Alki Nachalatoya Be'ever Edin, because his inheritance was across the Jordan, Rechol Kamimakom and Melchamav, far away from the place of war. Halo Gam Gilad Shochem Be'ever Edin. Gilad also was on the other side of the Jordan. V'Yalkol Zeh Baal Melchama, still they came to the war. Kamosha Keduv Lamala B'nei Mani Malcher V'hu Gilad. So Gilad came to the war. So again, look what she's doing. It's amazing what she's saying. She's saying that Reuven, you want to argue that this war has nothing to do with you, because you're far away from the war, and that's it. So if you want to use that as an excuse, you have a major problem, because Gilad also lived in your area, and he came to the war. So if that's your excuse, it's worthless to me. And then Dan, Rosh Af al Dan, Yesh Litrameim, she could also complain about Dan. Kilama Yikabates, Kol Asher Lo Shuma Besfina. Why did they all gather and put everything in their ships, Livrok, to run away? Hello, but Nachlato Kroval. Surely there is his inheritance was close to the place of war. Madua im came Barak v'lo Bal Mechama. So if that's the case, why did they run and not go to war? Asher, when now comes to Asher, im shagam Asher lo ba, is even though Asher did not come, hine lo ba'amal asa. It wasn't that he was trying to do something else. Rak al ki nachlato haya b'chofeyam. It was only because his inheritance was by the seashore, al asfar, on the border, v'arav him perutzim v'peruzim b'bli choma, and his cities were unwalled, and the places unwalled. So that's why they had to remain in their dwell in their unwalled cities. Leval yavo'u pem avos galilim asmuchos lahasfar. I can't read Hebrew anymore. Okay, that they wouldn't come, so the other nations could not come close to their border. Okay, so that's the Malbim, that's the Shus David, all saying that that's a defense that they're using. That's it, she's giving him. So the Malbim says, Gilad, Beve Yordain Shachain, Alo Gilad hu Shachain Etzli. She says, does not Gilad live near me, V'shomer ed artzi, and guard my land, Umavsik beini uvein lemoav, and separate between me and between the enemy, Lechein lo ba, lo shatev b'tzar lachiv, and therefore he did not come, he would not come to join with the tzara of his brothers. V'chein Dan, lam yagobanio, why did Dan live in the ships? Lama aseg Dan mitzcharo v'kabetz aniyo v'lo bala azir. Why were they dealing with their trade and gathering into the boats and not coming to help? Al zeh yesh l'tam but mevuar ki hu amar v'libo, because he said in his heart, Asher yashav l'choviyam halo Asher mafsik beini levein ha'oyev, that surely Asher is separating between me and the enemy. And on his breaches he's dwelling, and that Asher was guarding his place, and that's why he didn't come. Okay, so she's just going through all these names, that all these people who did not come and who she's yelling at, some that did, some that did not. So Zavulun am charef nafsho lamut benaftali. So Zavulun is a people that jeopardized their lives to die, as did Naphtali. Al marome sadeh, upon the high places of the field. And Rashi says, Bezeh, Zavulun, Am Chareif. Zavulun is a people who jeopardize their lives. Bezeh nafsho, with his soul. V'hivkir atzmo lemut b'milchamam, and made his life hefker. That's interesting. Okay, that's where they're getting jeopardized from. That he made his life onerous, as it were, and he's willing to give it up to die in the war with Barak v'chein Naphtali al Marom Sadeh, on the heights of the field, al Har Devorah. And so that's why she's praising those two. And the Mesilas David says, Ulam Zavulun Asahatov, but Zavulun did good. See, the problem is, by the way, is Cheref Nafsho. Cheref Nafsho. Cheref is a language of bizayon, despising. So the question is, what does it mean? If I translate it literally, Zavulun is a nation that despises his soul to die, and Naphtali. So what does that mean, to despise his soul to die in Naphtali, on the heights of the field? I mean, it's really a non-understandable verse by itself. Okay, so that's why everybody's putting words in, that he was hefker atzmo lamut, that he was that he made himself onerous, as it were. He was willing to give up his life, and that's why he says ulam Zavulun asahato, but Zavulun did good. Kihu ashecheref, because he was the nation that was reviled, that was despised. Uvazen nafshol alecha milchaman. With this, his soul went to war. V'lo yikra nafsho be'einav, and he didn't hold his soul precious in his eyes. Lachshosh penyamu b'milchama, to suspect maybe he's going to die in the war. So that's bizayon nafsho. It's an interesting expression that he was. Cheref nafsho, where they despised his soul. He despised his soul because he wasn't afraid to die. Okay, so then it says Naphtali, and then it says and Naphtali, so it means v'gam Naphtali. He has to add a word here, also Naphtali. Kamohu, like him, lochash lamut al marome sadeh, that he didn't fear to die on the tops of the field. Shepamakom melchama, that was the place of war. Im ki Hashem tziva ba'u, because Hashem commanded to take them to the war, both Bnei Zvulun and Bnei Naphtali, like it says above. V'lo tziva lahavil melchama yetem shvatim, and it didn't command to take the other tribes into the war. Mikol makom hidrama Devorah al Reuven. Still, no, Devorah is complaining against Reuven and done. Al shelo ba'u me'atzom, that they did not come on their own. Kederach shabau misha'ar shvatim, like the other parts, like the other tribes came. So she's complaining only about the people who could have come and did not come. She's praising the people who did not have to come and came. But when it comes to Dan and Naphtali, they were told by God to go, and they not Dan, Zavulun and Naphtali, they were told by God to come, so they came, and they weren't afraid for anything that was going on. So Ba'u Malachim Nilchamu, the kings came and fought as Nilchamu Malchei Canaan. Then they fought the kings of the kings of Canaan, Ta'anach, in Ta'anach Ame Megiddo, by the waters of Megiddo, Betza Kesef Lo Lakachu, and they didn't take any profit of the money. So it's another one. She's again comparing the non-Jewish kings to us, ripping us down because of what they did. Again, the other kings came to fight, and they fought with Canaan. They had nothing to do with the fight, in other words. They had nothing to do with the fight. And they came, they fought in Tanakh by the waters of Megiddo without any money. Okay, so Rashi says, where is it? Chinam ba'u the Ezra Cisera. They came for nothing to help Cisera. Lo bakshim men sechar. They didn't ask any money from him. Then the Metzudas David says, Rosh Limor Shifte Yisrael Hine Lo Baal Ezra Achehem. That when the tribes of Israel, behold, they did not come to help their brothers, and yet Malchei Artzot Achero, but men of the kings of the other nations, Bau Ezra Cisera V'Nilchemu Ba'avaro, to help Cisera and to fight with him on his behalf. Az Be'eda Lechem Hilachem Cisera Nilchemu Ba'avaro Malchei Canaan B'Ra Va'am. When the time when Cisera was fighting, they joined him with a lot of people. They start to fight in Tanakh, and they went all the way to Megiddo. Betzel Bechinam Ba'u Be'ezrato B'Scharam Betzel Kesef Amra. They didn't take any money, and they said, and she said, when she's complaining, Halo Avos Gelulim Ba'u Bechinam. That surely it is not that the nations came for nothing, for no reason, for free, to help Cisera. Madua lo bar Reuven v'dan be'ezrat acheim. So if the other nation come, why Reuven and Dan couldn't you come? She's really picking on Reuven and Dan. And again, everybody else came, but she's picking on Reuven and Dan. I want to think about that, by the way. You have 12 tribes. You have 10 tribes who came. 2 tribes decided to sit it out. And she's yelling at these 2 tribes. What was your problem? The other tribes came, good. The other kings came, great. But why didn't you come? She's really yelling at them. And by the way, the other kings had a reason to come. What would be their reason? I mean, they didn't ask for money, fine, but what was their reason to come? What do you think?
Sharing the spoils.
Besides that, no, because they're saying they didn't come for that.
Yeah.
They didn't come to share the spoils. What else would they come for? I mean, nobody acts on their own behalf. Nobody in this world has ever been altruistic. Forget it. It's always about me. So, ultimately, you find out you're doing it for yourself. People who give money anonymously, they do it to feel good about themselves. Yeah. And they also don't want, but why else they give it anonymously? Because they don't want anybody else to come to them. Really, that's it. If everybody knows, I can go to donor G, or donor L, or donor B. Okay, so I'm going to go to them every time. And everybody knows they give me money. Fine. There was a guy in Flatbush. I think it was Flatbush. New York, who everybody knew that the guy after Mincha, for 1.5 hour he would write checks out. That was a lot of money. So you would come to him, you would give him your sob story, wrote the check out for a half hour, just writing checks. Boom, 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 boom. Every Mincha, boom. You knew that's it. He would write it out. So if you came up with a good sob story or whatever, you came up with he would give you. I'm not saying he gave you, $30,000, but it's not bad to get $100, $200 from one guy.
I'm a little short on my rent this month.
Right, whatever the case is. But they knew they could get it. Why? Because he wasn't anonymous. He wasn't anonymous. He had to keep signing checks. Anonymous is a very nice way of saying, I'll give you my money, leave me alone. I don't want anybody to know. I don't want plaques. I don't need people yelling at my door. Okay? So that's anonymous. That's Mr. Anonymous. But when it comes to anything else, I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for some reason. I want this honor. I want that honor. Whatever the case is. I want to run the system. I don't care. Nobody does anything altruistically. It's the biggest lie that we have in history.
Maybe they want to assure themselves of getting their chunk of territory or something?
Not chunk of territory. What they want to do is protection. That's it. They figure if
I go to help you, then you have to come and help me.
More than that, I don't want to fight with these people anymore. Let's get rid of them for once, all at once. We'll join you. We all agree with what you're doing. Let's join together. Let's wipe them out. Let's start again.
Sounds like the Republicans.
Right.
Things don't change very much over.
No, nothing's changing.
Human nature is always the same.
When you're looking at this, you have to. So she's picking on. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's with all due respect to Devorah, I don't know if it's so fair. That's what she's saying. Because when it came to these other nations, there is a vested interest in them joining together to wipe out this group of people called what were they called? Bnei Yisrael. There's a vested interest here. They took over a piece of land. The piece of land happens to be right in the middle of the crossroads. How about Indiana, the crossroads of America? That is literally the crossroads. It's a little piece of land, but it's right in the middle of everything. You don't want to have to go around it. Okay? I mean, on the map it looks like this, fine. But even to go around the smallest state, they say it's New Jersey or Rhode Island? I forget who's the small state here.
The smallest state.
Rhode Island. So the smallest state, even to go through Rhode Island, it still takes you by car an hour, depending on where you're going. It's crazy. It's not such a small state. Well, I have to go through it many times, and it takes a long time to get through. And depending on which way I'm going. If I go another way, it could take a couple hours. But it's it's right in the middle. So if I can have a trade treaty with you.
If you're in Maine and you want to get to New York, you got to go through Rhode Island. It's the best way.
Like this is like the good news and bad news. As far as trade, it's wonderful to be on the crossroads, both east and west and north and south.
Right.
But it's also the bad news is that all the wars.
Correct. Correct. So that's what I'm saying. It would be to the benefit of those other kings to join with Cisera and his, who was only the general anyway, but with his people, and say, we'll join you, wipe out this group, we'll have trade going back and forth, we wouldn't have to worry, we're all friends now, until we're not, but right now we'll be all friends, and we'll get it done. So it's not such a simple thing. The other tribes were all bordering the area anyway, and even they weren't bordering, there was within their vested interest to get the enemy out of the land. Right? So Reuven's on the other side. He wants to listen to his bleating of the sheep. She's saying, fine. And Dan, he has his headaches too. But she's yelling at these two and using the non-Jewish nations. I don't know. I don't think that's so fair. Personally, I don't think it's fair. But who am I? I'm just a guy reading the story a couple of millennia later. Okay.
A very good analogy to this is what's happening in Europe. That you had the EU joining together for economic interests.
Right.
Sure, yeah.
But the minute, like that Silingian free borders, the minute it goes bad for one country, then they don't want the union.
Right. Okay, so let me just finish this.
Everyone's got self-interest.
Let me just finish this up. So it says, where is it? Yutet. So it says, in the days of Joshua, the May Yoshua Kabatz, they gathered. I'm sorry. This of Joshua, Yavin, the king of Chatzor, gathered all the kings of Canaan over the Memarom to fight with Joshua. And now Yavin gathers the kings the second time. And he's camping by Megiddo. Al Pizeh Markiv of Meshorah. So that's why the songwriter here is comparing them together with the past and the future, and it's describing what happened now already was then. Namely, the kings came with Cisera to fight, just as in the previous days, when they fought with the kings of Canaan to help out the king of Chatzor. And explains that now they came into Tanakh via the waters of Megiddo, and they didn't take any money. So Ozvei, the Ozrei Yavin lo kablu b'schor milchamazu, k'moshe gam az, and also back in the days of Joshua, when Yavin gathered the kings together, they also didn't take money. So she's comparing what happened in Joshua's time to what happened now. The kings didn't. They all had a vested interest in this, and and nobody took money for it. And I'm adding because it was to their advantage that they would fight like that. Okay, so we'll have to stop here.